Have you noticed this terminology that pretty much everybody uses about birth? The doctor said I, quote, had to. The nurse said I could. They wouldn't let me. Do you hear that? There's a structure there that puts them above you. But it's your birth. You hired them to be there. I want to talk to you today about how a simple change in your mindset could totally transform the way that you give birth. Let's go. Are you a Christian woman yearning for a beautiful, joyful pregnancy and birth with a focus on God, not medical tests? Are you worried the birth you want isn't possible and you're tired of being treated like an accident waiting to happen? Hey mama, I'm Lori, host of Your Birth God's Way. I'm a certified nurse-midwife now, but I wasn't always. After working for nearly 20 years in the broken maternity system, I too was in your shoes wondering how I could have the birth I wanted and that I felt God meant for me to have. I found a secret that has actually been known since the beginning of time. God's way is the best way. Spoiler alert, God made us and our babies, and He knows us best. He designed us perfectly for pregnancy, birth, and nourishing our babies after birth, if we work with His design and not against it. In this podcast, you'll learn how to be healthy and have joy during this time of life that will be over before you know it. So if you're ready to reclaim your birth and your babies for His glory, go turn on a few episodes of Bluey for that little one on your hip so you can put the focus back on you for a few minutes with me. Quick disclaimer today, I'm recording at night, and right outside my window, there are tree frogs going nuts. And so I will try to remove that noise if I can, but understand that they are constantly croaking and making noise. And so please forgive me for that. There is nothing I can do. There is nowhere I can go because my kids are asleep. So my bedroom is off limits. Everywhere that I normally record is off limits. And so just bear with me. Forgive me. Just pretend like you don't hear them. I appreciate it. Okay, it's review time. Today's review I actually don't even have a name for because the screen name didn't show up, but she will know who she is because I'll just tell you, there aren't that many mamas like this out there. Headline says, a Christian midwife's knowledge exactly what I needed. I'm a mom of 7, soon to be 8. There's your key. That's how come I know that she's going to know it's her because there's just not that many mamas out there that have 8 kids, right? She says, while I'm not new to home birth, after having 6 home births, I did struggle to find a Christian midwife's tips and knowledge on how to deal with and understand postpartum. Until now, that is. I stumbled on this podcast seeking help on postpartum since I struggle so much with it every time I give birth. I found an episode dedicated to answering postpartum questions I had. Ever since listening to that episode, I have been binge listening to all the others. I thought I already knew so much about birth and pregnancy since I've done so much research over the years and having 7 babies of my own. I'm so incredibly amazed at this podcast. It is such a blessing to have a Christian perspective on birth. I feel like so many things I read or watched had a new age feel to it, which I don't believe in. I believe pregnancy and birth is very spiritual, and we can only really gain knowledge from getting it from the Bible. Lori's Christian's perspective is exactly what I've been looking for. Thank you, Lori, for blessing us women with your time and knowledge. Please don't stop. It is so encouraging in such an important time in women's lives. Thank you to you, beautiful nameless mama out there. I'm sorry I don't have your name, but I do appreciate you so much. That is so encouraging to me to know that someone who has had 6 home births of their own can still learn something from what I share here. Says a lot because that basically means everybody can learn something. There's something for everybody here who believes in God and believes that He created this whole process because He did. Whether or not you believe it, He did it. And He did it for you. And He believes that you can do this just like I believe you can do this, just like you need to believe that you can do this and you need to know that you can do this. And today, what we're going to talk about is all about shifting that mindset in another way. I know we talked about lots of different mindset things here, but another little shift that may seem insignificant, it may not seem like that big of a deal, but it is. Because let me tell you, Mama, language matters. Words have meaning. And we've got to break some habits to regain our ownership of this process. In birth, sometimes we get caught up in what feels like a hierarchy. We think that they, the ever elusive they, are the ones that get to decide things because they are the experts. But are they? Did they really know more about you and your baby and your pregnancy than you do? They might know more about the equipment. They probably do. They might know more about interpreting what the equipment tells them. And that's because that's what they do. That's their job. But they don't know your baby like you do, nor do they know your body like you do. They certainly don't know as much about how natural labor progresses when left alone like you do. Most of them have never seen one. If you've seen just a few videos, even just on Instagram or something online, of a truly natural, undisturbed birth, you already have more experience in that particular category than they do, because most of them have never seen it. What they see in the hospital is not truly natural birth. Now, I don't mean to be disrespectful. As I tell you guys all the time, I was one of them. I was exactly what I'm talking about. And I didn't have a clue about any of this. And that's how I know that they don't have a clue. I was them. I was the one that thought I knew something, that when it came to truly natural birth, I didn't know anything. And that's why I'm sharing here in this podcast, episode to episode, all that I've learned so that you can benefit from the things I've learned in the process that I went through to get to where I am now, so that you can take those same steps and learn the same things that I did. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing that you can't do that I've done. Yeah, I've got letters after my name that say I'm a midwife. That means something. It has some value. But I still don't know more about you than you do. I don't know more about your baby than you do. I might know how to interpret some things a little better than you do, but that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day if I ignore what you know and your ownership of this whole process. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Back then, if you had crossed paths with me with your current birth plan, you would have known more than I did. So how is it that I was the one letting you do this or that? Now, I'm not talking about after I was a midwife. I'm talking about back when I was a nurse in the medicalized maternity system, playing by all those rules. How is it that I decided as a nurse, or your doctor decided what you, quote, get to do? How is it that you would have had to ask the docs I worked with if you could do something? You'd have to ask permission. Or how is it that they could tell you that you had to do something when you would have known more about your birth and what you were wanting than they would, because you would have had more understanding and experience if you'd even just watched a few videos of what a natural birth was. I want to say here that you can avoid nearly everything that I'm going to talk about in this episode simply by taking the time to do your due diligence in choosing the person who you will hire to attend your birth on the front end. Hiring someone who aligns with your beliefs and your birth plan will save you the stress of having to learn these things. But even if you have someone caring for you who you trust implicitly, this episode will still empower you in other aspects of your life and care. Any aspect of healthcare, really. Or if you end up needing to transfer to the hospital, you'll be ready. And one other quick note, being, quote, high risk because the system says you are, doesn't mean that you have to abandon any of what we're going to talk about. You are still in charge, no matter what labels they put on you. So how can we change all this? How can we reclaim our power in this process? Well, the first thing that you have to do, and this might be the hardest one of all. Maybe I shouldn't have started with the hardest one, but this might be the hardest one. You have got to get out of this world of imposter syndrome. What do I mean by imposter syndrome? It's this feeling that you have no business saying that you know anything. Like you think that because you don't have letters behind your name that you have no right to advocate for yourself. Listen to me, mama. Don't think that just because you're, quote, just a mom, that you don't know enough to advocate for yourself and for your choices. Have you been looking for a course online to help you prepare for your natural birth, but you're sick of having to weed through the content to take out all that new agey stuff or the flat out ungodly advice? Well, I've got some great news for you. There is now a course that will teach you everything you need to know to be fully prepared for birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding from a Christian perspective on demand, taught by a midwife with over 20 years of experience in the maternity world. And that midwife is me. After many years of being indoctrinated into that godless, medicalized maternity world, I woke up to the truth and realized that most of the maternity system in our country is based on lies. I became a doula and then a midwife, and now I help moms like you have a God-led, God-filled birth from an informed position so that you do not have to be led by fear, but rather by faith in God and knowledge of the truth. Inside this course, you will be engulfed in Scripture while learning about God's ways of nutrition, prenatal care, birth, postpartum care, breastfeeding, what dad needs to know, and so much more. In addition to the course content itself, which is available in both video and audio formats, you'll get workbooks for each module so you can take notes on what you want to remember, Christian relaxation audio tracks to use during pregnancy and labor, printable affirmation cards, and the best part, you'll get access to a live question and answer session with me each month to ask your questions. To sign up or learn more, head over to go.yourbirthgodsway.com/course. That's go.yourbirthgodsway.com/course. Now, this is a serious course, and it's only for serious mamas who truly want to have their birth God's way. So if that's you, head over to go.yourbirthgodsway.com/course today, and I'll see you in the course. You have been in your body every year of your life, and you're the only one carrying your baby. You're the only one that really knows your baby. You may be tuned out from your intuition because you have let the world convince you that you don't know anything. But if you shut that world out and you tap back into the intuition that God gave you, then you know a lot about your baby already. Things that your doctor doesn't know anything about. Things like how your baby likes to lay, how your baby likes to move around, how your baby likes to sleep, when your baby is active, when your baby sleeps, what its schedule is. These are things that you actually know if you really think about it. You know more about the position of your baby. Side note, if you want to learn more about how to know the positioning of your baby, go all the way back to episode 17. I went through belly mapping. And a side note to that side note, some exciting news is that I'm going to be recording a video with one of your sister listeners this summer, and it's going to be part of an exciting new community that you're going to want to be a part of. So just kind of make a mental note of that. There's big stuff coming, and you need to be listening for it because you're going to want to be a part of that. But until then, episode 17 will help you kind of know how to identify what you're feeling and what position your baby's in if you can't figure it out without a little bit of guidance. Also, if you're early pregnant, just know that there are big things coming for you with this podcast and with the things that I offer, and you're going to benefit from it so much. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on the news. Make sure that you're signed up for email updates so that you're the first one to find out, because it's some exciting stuff. Off of my side notes, back to my main notes, just know that you know more about your body and how it works than someone else. You are not unqualified to have the deciding say in your care just because you don't have a degree or because you don't have certain letters behind your name. That's how they make you feel because they don't really want your pushback. But I don't care what they want. I want you to have the birth that you deserve. And so you've got to step away from feeling this imposter syndrome where you feel like you have no right to speak for yourself because they know more than you do. They don't. Yes, they've got book knowledge, but you know you better. You know exactly what you're feeling. You know more about your baby than anybody else on the planet. It's you and God. You are the two that know your baby. And that's it. No doctor, no midwife, no nothing. So you need a provider that listens to you, a provider that hears when you tell them what's going on and doesn't just blow you off or make you feel stupid because you're not a midwife or you're not a doctor. That's not going to cut it. And if you're feeling that, I didn't write down the episode number, but go back to the episode where we talk about how it's never too late to fire your doctor or fire your provider. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more too as we go on. Thing 2. So first thing is get out of the feeling of imposter syndrome. Put that behind you. Thing 2. In all caps, you are the boss. The boss, not one of the bosses. You are the boss. They that we always talk about, they work for you. Okay? They work for you. No, or no thank you if you'd prefer, if you want to be polite, which you should as a Christian. No thank you is a complete sentence. Okay? Doesn't matter what they're recommending. No thank you or that's not for me is a complete sentence, and it is authoritative and it is definitive. Get this. Even if your choice is known to cause harm to you, if you fully understand the risks and benefits of your decision, it is still your decision to make, not theirs. I might need to say all that again. Even if your choice might harm you, at least maybe in their eyes, you still have the right to make that decision. No one makes that decision for you, and no one can make you do something different if that's what you decide that you are going to do. They can't make you do anything. As a Christian, you submit to the Lord and you submit to your husband in marriage, but that's the end of it. That's the end of the list of the people that you submit to. Your doctor, your obstetrician, your midwife, none of those are on that list. They are not an authority in government that God tells you to submit to, crooked or otherwise. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. It is your decision. You are the boss. They can make their recommendations and they can tell you what they think you should do. But that's all. That's it. Their values are not your values. So their values don't matter. Your values do. What's best for you from your perspective is what matters. Not from their perspective, from your perspective. Got it? The third thing goes back to the title of this episode because all of the first two kind of play into it. They all kind of get tied up in a little package with this one. And this one is you've got to change your language. You got to change the way you talk. Don't ask them if you can do something. Tell them respectfully what you're going to do. Don't say I, quote, had to have some tests done. Don't say I, quote, had to have a C-section when we're talking about our past births. Even change that. Those were your choices, even if you were coerced. Okay? And I know that hurts to hear. I know you don't want to hear that. I understand that. But even if they forced you into a decision and you felt you had no choice, ultimately, at the end of the day, you went along with it. It was your choice. You have to change your mentality to own your choices, not only now moving forward, but looking back. Own them. Understand that maybe they came about because of bad information or being coerced or being forced. But at the end of the day, it was still your care and you have to own it to some degree if you are going to empower yourself to own your care. Instead of saying things like, today I had to get my, let's say gestational diabetes screening, just say, I had my gestational diabetes screening. Instead of saying, the baby's heart rate dropped, so I had to have a C-section, you say, the baby's heart rate dropped and I had a C-section. Those changes, I know they seem small, they seem like they're not important, but these changes are going to empower you to own your care and to be more assertive. Taking out the had to and the let me and can I do this and that is going to change the way you own your care. Words have real meaning and they impact the way you think drastically. Let's do a little example, kind of a little role play kind of thing. Let's say you walk into an appointment at 24 weeks and they tell you that next visit you, quote, have to get your gestational diabetes screening. They say you've got to get it next week. Ask them, instead of saying, okay, and just going along with it, ask them to tell you the risks of that test, to tell you the benefits of that test, and to tell you any alternatives that exist for that test. Listen attentively to what they say, and then you inform them what you are going to decide. Are you going to take the drink with you and complete the test the conventional way? Are you going to do a different version of the test? Are you going to decline the test? You tell them. They don't tell you. You decide. They may try to coerce you after that because they want you to do that test. They are slaves to that particular test. They need to know it. They feel like if you don't get that test, that is a crucial piece of information that they're going to have to do without. They may even tell you that they won't care for you anymore if you decide not to do that test or maybe other tests. But guess what? It's still your choice. It is still your choice. You can choose to change your plan and do what they recommend. That's a choice. You can choose that so that you can stay in their care. You can choose to stand by your plan and find a better provider who is able to think critically and think beyond a protocol and not operate by a checklist in each and every person's pregnancy. Policies and protocols are not laws. You are not required to follow them, even if they say you are. They choose to operate in a way that is cookie cutter, that has no room for you to exercise autonomy, but that's on them, not you. Now, I hear what you're saying. You're saying, there's nobody else to care for me. Maybe you live in a rural area. Maybe there aren't a lot of choices. Maybe you think I have no choice. This is my only choice. But guess what? That still is a choice. It may not be an easy choice, but where you live is a choice. You may feel like you didn't have choices, but at the end of the day, you did choose on some level to be where you are. So you can think outside the box and look for better options. You can look at options that may require travel. Travel may be required. Maybe a temporary move might be required if you want to have more choices. Now, I know that's hard. I know that's expensive. I get all of that. But where there is a will, there is a way. God will make a way. You talk to Him, you tell Him what you're going through, and He knows what's out there. He knows what you need. He already knows the end of the story. If you seek what's right, He's going to provide a way. Go back and listen to episodes 69 and 70. In those two episodes, I talked to Anna Espinoza, who moved to a different state to have her twin babies in a natural way against coercive medical advice that was telling her she was going to kill her babies if she didn't evict them from her womb prematurely. She knew that wasn't right. She trusted her God and she trusted her gut. She's not a doctor. She's not a midwife. She's not a nurse. But she knew what she was being told wasn't right. And she made hard choices and had her babies naturally in the water on the other side of the country from where she lives. Life is choices. Even if you allow yourself to be coerced into something, you've got to understand that ultimately it was still your choice to do that thing. You choose to go along with what they say to avoid conflict, but that's still a choice. Or you choose to have the conflict, but you get the care you deserve. Still a choice. Neither one is easy. But it's something that you as an adult, as a mother, must take the time to think through so that you can own your choice. You must do the work that you need to do to understand all the sides of it to make a good choice for you and for your baby. God gave you a mind to think and an intuition to trust. And whether or not you use those two things is also a choice. If you just want to be mindless and just go along to get along, that's fine, but it's still a choice. It's still you making the decision. You can proudly say, I decline, or I don't believe that's what is best for me or my baby. So we're going to do blank, fill in the blank. We're going to see a different provider. We're going to not do this test. We're going to do whatever the thing is that we're talking about. You can proudly say that when you have informed yourself and you have owned your care. Say you want to get up and walk around in labor. You let them know that you're going to take the monitors off for a little while and you're going to walk around because you know that's what's best for your baby's positioning. Let me tell you, they're going to push back hard. They're going to tell you that you can't. But can you? Of course you can. Because you walked around for 9 months. What's different now? If you don't have medications going in your IV, which I hope you don't, if you don't have an epidural, which I hope you don't, you can get up and walk around. Your baby is okay. Your baby's been okay. There's nothing about that monitor that is going to change that. So you let them know that you are going to get up and you're going to go do some laps through the hall. It's tough. It's not easy to do that. It's not easy to push back against that authority. That's why, again, you got to go back and make sure you got a provider that you're not going to have this fight with. But at the end of the day, you decide what is best for you and what is best for your baby, and you kindly and respectfully let them know what you're going to do. You don't wait for them to give you permission. And I know very well how the system works, and I know very well that the system does not like what I'm saying. I was the system again. I know. But now, knowing what I know now, I know that that's the best thing for that baby and for that mama. And you know that's the best thing for you and for your baby. So you do what's best for you. You want to give birth upright? You let them know you're going to do that. And that you would appreciate them helping you and you would appreciate them participating in your plan. But if they don't want to, that's fine. You'll catch your baby with the help of your husband. But that's what you're going to do. I know it feels uncomfortable. I get that. But this is how changing your language will change your birth. Changing how you think, the internal dialogue is going to change your birth for the good. You decide and you let others know what you're going to do as needed. You're not rude. You're not ugly. But you own your birth. And it empowers you, mama. You will feel a sense of pride in a good way. You will feel a sense of empowerment that you may never have felt before. You avoid things like birth trauma when you own your birth and you don't feel like everything was done to you without your input, like things just happen to you. That's where birth trauma comes from. It's when a mama is laying there and everything's being done to her and thrown at her and she feels completely out of control. But when you're in control, when you own your choices, when you inform yourself and you advocate for yourself and you surround yourself with a team that is going to advocate for you, that's where empowerment comes from. And that's one of the best ways to avoid birth trauma. And I know everybody wants to avoid that. That's one of the best ways to do it. You don't feel robbed. You don't feel done wrong. You don't feel like somebody has done something to you they shouldn't have done when you are the one making the choices. The best way that you can advocate for yourself, the best way you can do all the things that we've talked about doing, is to be fully informed of the purpose of the tests, the risks, the benefits, the alternatives to each one, the interventions, all the different things that currently exist in our maternity world. I wish you didn't have to understand all those things, but you do. It's part of it. You have to know what they're all about so you can make good choices. And that is what you're going to get when you decide to join the Your Birth God's Way Christian online childbirth education course. You're going to get that full picture, not just the picture that the insurance companies say that you can have, not just what hospital protocol says you get. And by the way, if you're taking your childbirth education classes at a hospital, that's what you're getting. You're getting hospital protocol. They are indoctrinating you into the way things happen there because they want you to fall in line. You are not going to get a truly balanced education about your birth at a hospital facility, guaranteed. Okay? When you take a class like this one that has no one that they are beholden to, that is not owned by insurance companies, that's when you get the real information. You'll know for yourself the facts that you need to make informed, empowered choices that will honor your God, that will honor your family, your baby, and yourself. Because having your birth God's way will transform you into a powerhouse of a mama. Knowing that you own each step and walk through it confidently with God at the center is going to change you in a way that nothing else can. So don't miss the chance to have these power tools in your toolbox. You know how to give birth without this course. You don't need me to teach you how to give birth. You might need some pointers about how to do it well, how to tolerate the different things that you're going to go through, how to deal with the pain. You might need some help with that, and that's part of the course as well. But what you might not know how to do is how to navigate this messed up birth world we find ourselves in. But with this course, you will know how to navigate it. You'll know how to give birth with your head held high. You'll have everything that you need to come out on the other side happy and healthy, knowing that you had your birth God's way. And no matter where you plan to give birth, this is the course that you need to walk in with your head held confidently high, knowing you are prepared no matter what comes. So come join me today. When you do, you're going to get access to our live question and answer session, which is coming up in less than 2 weeks. So go ahead and get signed up so you don't miss out on that. I would love to get to sit down with you and answer your questions and help you with whatever you're going through at this point in your pregnancy. It is not too early or too late for you to sign up. Even if you're 38 weeks pregnant, it's not too late for you. Even if you don't even know if you're pregnant yet, maybe you're not even trying to get pregnant. You might not even be married yet. It's still for you. The information is going to help you no matter where you are in the process. So go check out the link down in the show notes so that you can learn more about it, because I know that this course is going to prepare you in a way that no other course does, and that you are going to rock it, and you're going to have your birth God's way, and you are going to learn the things you need to learn to be able to get out of having that imposter syndrome, to be able to get out of thinking that somebody else is the boss, and to be able to change your language so that you can be empowered to make choices and to let everyone else know what's going on, rather than waiting for them to give you permission. Mama, you don't need nobody's permission. Yeah, I said it all country. You don't need anybody's permission. Sorry, Tennessee comes out of me. I can't help it, y'all. Tennessee is in me. It is what it is. But you don't need anyone's permission, okay? You decide what you're going to do with your birth. You decide how you're going to give birth. It's up to you. Rely on your God. Pray. talk to Him a lot, and then get the tools. He's providing you the tools right here. You've been wanting to know how to do all the things you need to do. You've been wanting to know all the things you need to know. And here I am talking to you. God sent you my way and sent me your way for a reason. So why wait? Hop over there. Let's get started. And I'll see you next week probably, because this week I have a trip later this week for my homeschooling hat that I wear. So I will probably not have 2 episodes for you this week, but still subscribe. There's a chance I might throw one up there if I have a little extra time. So just be watching, but you know for sure you'll hear from me next Tuesday. So be watching for it then. Real quick, if today's episode blessed you in any way, would you head over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a quick 5-star written review? It'll take you less than a minute, but it's the best thank you you can give me. And it will help my show to reach more mamas just like you, so we can all find God's best for our families. I'll see you right back here in a few days.